Now I've replaced my clutch slave cylinder that had the broken mount with another one. I've got to bleed the system. That's usually a two-person job. And if you're at home, just a guy in a shed or a girl in a shed, you usually have to get a second person to help you bleed the clutch. And as we all know from experience in life, it's not a good idea to get your partner and ask them to sit in the car and pump the brake or the clutch pedal, particularly in a race car where you've got bucket seats, roll cages, side impact bars, and it's usually jacked up while you're working on it, so it's at an awkward angle and so forth. So yeah, it's not a good idea. There's at least two ways you can bleed your brake or clutch system on your own. You can buy bleeder valves for your brakes that have a little ball bearing and a spring in them. They're a one-way valve, so you just open the valve, put the tube on, go and sit in the car yourself, pump the pedal, and as long as you've got a bit of tube going into the jar as normal, then they will bleed by themselves, and then you just go and lock that wheel off and progress to the next one. The other way involves pressurising the system. There's tools that you can buy that pressurise the brake system from the master cylinder. But I'll show you how I've made my own. You go to your local giant hardware store and you buy the cheapest garden sprayer that you can find. This one cost me, I think it was $18 when it was on special. You take the spray wand off and you reconfigure the plumbing, and I'll show you. You take the hose from the container and you route it using the trigger of the sprayer, but on the exit to the sprayer, you put a hose that you attach to the lid of a spare master cylinder. And we've all got spare master cylinders, both brake and clutch, lying around in our shed. I think I've got about 5 of these. So you take the lid and you just make an adaptation so that you can attach a hose to the top of it. And this allows you to pump pressurised fluid from this container into the master cylinder. And when you do that, the fluid will go past all the rubber seals and will go through the system, and you can pressure bleed it. You don't have to fill this cylinder with brake fluid. I usually pour a bottle in, but if there's any fluid in here at all and you pressurise it, that fluid will go out and into the master cylinder. So I don't think you've got to buy 2 or 4 litres of brake fluid to do this. Just a bottle of brake fluid, pour it in and pump it up. Let's see how it works. So here's the setup. Tube coming out of the pressure tank through the pressure wand trigger. This is where I've changed it and fitted the clutch master cylinder reservoir cap. You can do exactly the same thing if you've got a spare brake master cylinder cap. So we just take the cap off, put this one on, lock it on, pump up pressure, and then you just press the trigger and you'll see the fluid go through, and it pressurizes the whole system, and you just go to wherever you need to bleed. In my case, with the clutch, I've had to remove the bleed screw to get it to fit in my particular situation. So I just pressurize the system, and then I go and crack the line, let the fluid come out, and that's how you bleed the system. So that's a setup for a one-person bleeding of brakes or clutch, and it cost me less than $20. Pressing clutch now, load point, flat to the floor. Here's another cost saver, grill mesh. You can pay ridiculous amounts of money for a tiny piece of mesh of whatever colour that you like for your race car. They're absolute rip-offs online. What I've used here is I've just gone to my aluminium supplier and I've bought a sheet of aluminium mesh designed for a security screen door. And the sheet is the size of a screen door, so it's what, about 800 by 2 metres. So you get massive amounts of it, and then I just spray it with paint to make it whatever colour I want. In my case, it's black, but if you wanted a purple grill, well, you could just spray it purple. You can breathe through this really well. I've actually breathed through it, and it doesn't restrict the air much at all. If you wanted a more open mesh, there's another alternative, and that's this stuff. This is 6.5 by 6.5 square mesh. It's used for gardens. You'll get it at large hardware stores, and it's commonly called mice mesh for keeping rodents out. That will make a grill that will catch stones and protect your radiator and coolers, and give you absolutely maximum airflow if that's a critical factor for you. My replacement Honda engine mount has arrived. Modern engine mounts are not just designed to hold the engine in the car, they're also designed to eliminate noise and vibration from the driver's compartment. But in a race car, this isn't a relevant factor at all. You'll commonly find on factory engine mounts that they have holes in them. And the reason those holes are there is to allow the mount to move up and down and backwards and forwards and take away that noise and vibration. But the problem is those holes make the mounts not as strong as they could be. On a factory mount, those holes become a weakness and cause your mounts to tear. I found in racing both on the dirt and on the tar that it's best to fill those holes in factory mounts in. And there's a particular product that I use that I found the best, and that's Sikaflex. I've tried other sorts of rubbers, and this is without doubt the best. It's a really tough rubber in a tube, and it's designed for weatherproofing and sealing the joints on the precast concrete wall panels of industrial units. So it's tough stuff. If you just fill the holes with rubber, what I found is they work their way out. So I've learned to not just fill the holes with rubber, but to put a complete face on it on both sides, so the rubber can't come out, and that way it will stay in place. Now, although this factory mount only broke in a severe crash, I'm going to see if I can strengthen it. This is the standard Honda V6 engine mount out of the Accord that the engine on this came out of. And these mounts are definitely designed to make a smooth ride. And you'll see that in the top there's quite a bit of room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely fill that up with Sikaflex to make that stronger. I'm going to use white Sikaflex so that you can see what I'm doing, because if I use black you wouldn't be able to see it. But let's make this mount a bit stronger. Well, as strong as we can anyway.